this is not about punishing or telling children that they're wrong. It's about understanding and connecting with them. So this is what we were trying to do with Replay. And then to provide a kind of a forum for reviewing the responses to the content that we presented in a kind of safe and a friendly and controlled environment. So through a whole session of playing the game and then reviewing the game, by the end of it you would have a much greater understanding of the issues that the child was facing, perhaps develop a relationship with them, and maybe begin to think about behaviour change and so on. So the game itself, it's a kind of, as you'll see in a minute, I've got two very brief little bits of film. It's a sort of futuristic Segway simulation. I don't know if you all know what a Segway is. It's one of those kind of strange things where you stand on it like that and you lean forward and it zooms forward and so on, if that makes any sense. And we created that within the game, as you'll see, but we also created a platform, an interactive kind of balance board, which I'll show you on the film in a minute, using sensors. So the player would stand on the platform with handlebars and using their feet with sensors would move left, right, forward and backwards, and that would be effectively a kind of a human joystick. So this is part of the game that we played. This is the highly interactive part on the slide. It can also be played with other plug-and-play devices, a joypad and so on, and sometimes was, but this was part of the thing. It's a first-person racer game. It's against the clock. Although the activities embedded in the game, there are 6 activities in our pilot game, the clock stops for the activities, because actually what you want the child to do when they're addressing the activities is to think and respond rationally. So there is a race part of the game, the race stops, the activity is completed, the clock stops, and then once the activity is completed, the race carries on, the clock starts again. And we've integrated all the sort of interaction technologies. We developed mark recognition, so you wear a t-shirt and there are infrared. This is what Francisco talked better at than me, but your movement is mimicked. So if you move down like that on the balance board, the character will crouch down up and the character will go up, and then the jump will be larger and so on. And as I explained, the technology inherent in the balance board as well. So I'm this is only kind of a 30-second clip. This is just a very brief clip of one of the testing sessions at the centre in Spain, Tenerife, and this is a young person. I'll show you the full thing of the actual game itself in a second, but on the balance board, so their controls are using the balance board, and you can see the design and so on. This is quite an early design. There's another design of the balance board that is in development and in production right now. So that gives you an idea as to the interaction. Let's just carry on. So the game itself, as I said, integrates this customizable educational assessment activity, breaks into gameplay. These include things like moral dilemmas, activities that try and stimulate consequential thinking. What will the consequence be if I took this route? And things like empathy. So the activity I'll show you is to do with empathy. The game itself includes what you could consider traditional game elements. You get power-ups, you kind of drive into certain little icons, and that gives you little boosters and so on, and all of that kind of stuff. There are mini-games within the game, again, which I'll show you in the little film. Navigation challenges, you have to navigate the right pathway, you could fall off, and then you have to go back again, and so on. So it integrates all of those traditional game elements. And then at the end, we have the replay mode within the game, which allows the teacher or the professional to fast forward to each activity point in the game. So you don't replay the whole game, you just replay the activities. So activity 1, and the game will fast forward to activity 1, activity 2, and then you can review the responses. So I'll just show you if this works. Okay, so it's quite dark actually, isn't it? But hopefully you can see a little bit. That was just a power up you get. So this is just the kind of standard gameplay. You have to follow the arrows, you're jumping, you're flying through. And then you're coming down here to one of the mini games here, where you have to go over a little spot in the floor. This opens a gate beyond the laser beams. You then have to wait until the laser beams go before going through. These are the kinds of things that we found really engage the players. Okay, and then what you have is you have stars, and the stars represent the activities. So you have to go through the stars or you can't carry on. This is a simple image-based game. You see an image, everything's in audio, there's a music track, but all the activities are recorded as voice tracks as well. So the voice track says, this girl has been left on her own, how do you think she feels? You then have a series of words on the screen that the child can click on to select how they think that person will feel. That's recorded in the database. You can then go back and replay that later on. And then you go on and so on. And as I mentioned, the replay session allows the review of all the activities completed during the game session. It allows the teacher or the expert to expand and explore any issues that they feel are particularly relevant. Clearly, we have 6 activities. Some of the activities will perhaps bring up nothing particularly out of the ordinary, but you might hit on 1 or 2 activities where you think, well, that's very interesting, so it's incumbent on the expert to pick up on the things that they think are most relevant. What we found, and I'll come to this in the conclusions in a second, that this is partly about the teacher or the expert gaining a greater understanding of why it is that that particular child might be behaving in the way that they are, behaving in a difficult or a negative way. But it's also very, very clearly a chance for there to be for the expert teacher and the child player to develop trust, to develop a relationship. This has been a very key feature of the testing. The game as a whole as well is very much about understanding values, particularly in the school that I was working in South East London. You walk into the school and they have a very clear list of the values of the school. And one of the first things that the teacher said to me there when I went in at the start of the project was the hardest thing is the values they bring to school don't match the values of the school. So this discussion of values is one of the things that we're trying to stimulate through the replay game. And as we said, this allows the school, the individuals in the school, the professionals in the school or in the centre to begin to address the causes of antisocial behaviour. So, did it work? From a young person's perspective, the initial feedback was highly positive. Generally it compared well to real game titles, which is obviously not an easy thing to do. I mean, as you're probably aware, these games these days tend to cost probably hundreds of millions of dollars to develop, and we didn't have quite that much money. So competing with those game titles is quite tough, but the response was very positive. There was a real buzz around the game. When I was in the school running sessions, we had kids outside the door trying to get in, wanting to play the game. There was a competition between the players for best times, which was good. The interactive platform, the balance board, was actually, we spent a lot of time configuring it. It was quite difficult, it was quite challenging to use, but it was very, very immersive. They really enjoyed the challenge of using this new way of playing. Interestingly, one of our worries, I guess, was, and something that was said to us early on, well, the kids will play the game part of the game, but when they get to the activities, they'll just click anything because they just want to get on with the game.